give a big hand for errors, applause for mistakes. Without them we wouldn't be here. Let's hear it for inexactitude, for imprecision, bravo. For fudging it, hip hip, 3 cheers. DNA of twisted double helix fame is an expert at that self-replication game. But once in a million times it goes wrong, and thanks to that we're singing the song. Won't you give a big hand for errors, applause for mistakes? Without them we wouldn't be here. Let's hear it for inexactitude, for imprecision, bravo. For fudging it, hip hip, 3 cheers. If that new mutation hits an egg or seed, which managed to combine together and then lead to one new fungus, plant or beast, that baby will be a little different at least. That mutation will probably reduce our new pals. We're down and me. So watch out now.
Hello, and welcome to Prospects of Kidkind. We almost had an intro screen this week, but we failed once again. But that's okay. So welcome to Prospects of Kidkind, the show where children debate adults in various topics. This week we'll be discussing freedom, justice, and education. I'm Eliza.
And I'm Celia.
I'm Boden.
And I'm Micky.
Can you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Yes, I'm in 4th grade and I'm bilingual. I speak English and Spanish.
Very cool.
Awesome.
And I love to do sports in my free time.
That's great. My name is Micky. I'm a member of a worker-owned web development cooperative here in the Boston area. And I have laryngitis, so it's really fun to hear me talking differently. I guess it's not for people who don't know me.
It's cool. It sounds good.
You sound more serious.
Yeah.
Yes.
than I would imagine it normally sound.
Yes. And this is a really fun, interesting project to debate. I wouldn't call you a child. You're a person.
I love this.
All right.
Cool. So we have some questions here. I have the mallet. We will be giving out some kind of points, based on your answers, and we will be picking a winner in the end. So please take this seriously. Okay. So our first question. So Micky, and also we have a surprise guest today. So stay tuned. Okay. So Micky, so you're trying to open up a school, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. And we're going to talk about whether or not we need school. Is formal education important? What would a dream school be like? Something like that. So why don't you tell us about your school, and then we can talk about whether school is even necessary.
All right. Well, I'm a member of a team of 6 people. We're proposing a new Boston public high school because we see a lot of need. The people that are going through these schools right now, it doesn't look like the rates are really bad. Success, failure, jobs, nothing. People are just coming out like zombies, it seems. I have the formal educational plant. It's like a box, Dr. Seuss. You go in and you come out educated. But we're proposing to open a school that deals with personal learning and at the rate the person is learning, and the subjects the person is interested in are very important. So there is lots of assessment that needs to be done, talking with people, communicating, and connecting a school with a community is something that we feel is really important. I haven't seen any schools that are really connected with the people in the community, the businesses, what's going on there. When I was little, I didn't really, there's a community. It means we go to the store or we go shopping or we go to the, park or something, but the actual people, what do they do? What do they mean to me? What do I mean to them? How do I fit in this community? Or am I just going to learn here and then go away somewhere and do stuff? Well, that's been the actual method that people have been doing. It's extractive education. Like, this is a big area for it. Boston, there's Harvard, there's MIT, there's all these schools. But I notice, living in Boston, I talk to lots of Bostonians who don't even know they're like 2 miles from, well, they know, but they don't really access anything that is in these schools that could be helping them. And so I feel we need schools to be tied to the community and community tied to the school so that we're helping each other make a better place for everyone.
Okay, so I guess we'll start with our first question, and Boden, you can start. Do you think we need school?
Well, I believe we need school because there are lots of things in school I believe you cannot learn outside of school.
Okay.
Like, these people hire teachers because they think their knowledge needs to be shared with others. And I think and those people like to share their knowledge for a living, and I think schools is a very good place to do that and to help people become smarter and improve their life when they get older.
Cool. Okay. So, and you think we need schools?
We definitely need schools, but not the type we have now. They're kind of like babysitters, and they enforce you to learn these things you really aren't going to need. They don't really poll the person or, quiz them and say, what are you about? They don't get to know a student. You have to get to know someone to know what they enjoy. Right? Now that I know you a little, I know what you like. You like sports. You like reading books. You told me. Yes.
So
And
what
Harry
would
Potter.
be like a dream school, besides like being made of ice cream? That would be my dream school. And the exams would be like ice cream tastings. But in all seriousness, what would be like a dream school for you? What would you want to learn? What do you think matters? And what would you want in a school?
Well, I think ice cream's pretty good, but
It's pretty good.
I would like a dream school where people like learning and they're not being held to learn against their will and really just loving to learn and learning things that they want to learn and really liking the kids in their school, like getting along.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's back to the idea of a community too.
Yeah. That does sound nice. And you were saying a little bit before, so you really like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Do you wish we could all go to Hogwarts?
Well, that would be pretty awesome.
That'd be pretty awesome. Maybe we should learn magic in school. Why aren't we learning magic in school?
I don't know. We should.
We should. Then you could disappear from this interview right now if you wanted to.
I mean, well, I think, I don't agree with them, but I think that sometimes people think that only their knowledge is important and only want to teach that stuff, but also think that they don't want to try to make people learn knowledge that's useless, but magic isn't useless.
What's something useless that you learn in school?
Well, I don't think anything is completely useless. I think it all has a meaning, and I think just some of us can't see the meaning and we think it's useless.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think it all has a meaning, but I think sometimes they can make stuff that really doesn't help you. Like if they're coming up with a strategy and they see that it's not helping you and they don't change that, I think that is not a great thing for them to do. Like if it's helping one student but other kids it's not helping.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think you should keep teaching it and try to find another way that the whole class can learn.
Yeah. Maybe I'll go get our surprise guest, but maybe you could talk about what are some things that maybe are a little useless that they're teaching in schools, or what could they be teaching better, or what matters more. I'll pass Celia the gavel and get our guest.
Well, as Boden pointed out, and it's absolutely correct, nothing is really useless. But if you don't understand why you're being given this to learn, then it is useless and you probably won't learn it. But if someone said to you, Boden, what do you want to be? And you said, I want to be an astronaut. And then I told you, well, to be an astronaut, you have to learn some math. Math would probably become more interesting to you right at that moment, you know. But if people just go, you have to learn these math charts, 10 by 10 is what, you know, like, and memorize all these numbers, memorize these dates that these men came and shot a gun here at a war, you know, and it's like, you don't really need that. But if you want to be a history teacher, you might want to know who came and did wars and good things and bad things here. But if you're never told why you need the information, you probably won't retain it.
Yep.
And that's just a waste of time.
The context is definitely very key.
Yes,
Yeah.
the context is.
Yep.
And there's so much going on in the community that school children don't know about. I think it's really important to get some of these things in front of them.
Very true. Well, 12 points to you both. And
12 points. Yay!
now we have
Okay, so I am back with our surprise guest, which is Dr. Richard, who is Dr. Richard Stallman. Maybe you can tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I started the free software movement, and free refers to freedom. It's software that respects the user's freedom. Software from Microsoft and Apple puts the company in power over the users. It's unjust software. So when I see the Apple logo on that machine, I feel disgusted. I would never run any of their software because it doesn't respect the user's freedom. So it was impossible to use a computer with only free software. There was very little free software in 1983. So I said, I'm going to lead a project to develop all the free software we need so that we can do our computing without letting companies have power over us. And we've done it.
Woo.
Yes.
10 points for, we give out points on the show.
you're two behind our
You're
guest.
2 behind, but that's okay. So speaking of
That
freedom,
doesn't mean I care if I win, you know.
I don't know what the prize is. Okay, so,
What's your name?
oh, I'm Eliza. Hello.
Oh, you said I don't know the prize, so I asked what's her name.
Oh, the prize is named. Well, you'll have to find out. She's inflatable. Okay, so
There's no prize.
there's no.
It's inflatable egos.
Yay. Okay. So speaking of freedom, our first question now will be, how do you define freedom, and do you feel free? And Boden, would you like to start?
Sure. Well, I think freedom is doing what you think is important and what you think you need to live life and for life to be good for you and for you to like it. And if you're being held against and doing stuff that you don't want to do, like if there's stuff in school that you really, really don't like and they're forcing you to do it, I think that's the opposite of freedom, and you're trapped and people don't really respect what you want to learn.
And do you feel free every day, walking around, living?
I feel free, but there are some times where you're doing something and you really just don't understand what's the point of it. Why should I be doing this?
What are some examples of some times when
Well,
you don't feel?
I think Micky said it, like, if there's stuff that you think will not help you in life and they're completely useless, like if you want to be a history teacher and they're teaching you math, and
Yikes.
then you're like, why am I learning math if I'm trying to be better at history? And if you're good at math and they're not challenging you, and you want to be better at history and not learning more of history than math, then I don't think that's right.
Okay, Micky, how did you define freedom, and do you feel free?
Yes, I do personally, but I know that we're not free as a general population of the planet. But I believe freedom came to me through my parents supporting me in what I do and what I would love to do, and always treating me like a human being, never treating me like a baby or the other, or, you know, like there were no secrets. Everything was real out in the open, and that's how I live my life. And I find that that's given me a lot of freedom over more than a lot of my friends have. They don't feel free because they did not grow up in a world where they were allowed to express themselves completely. So it's being able to express yourself.
And how about you?
Well, I pretty much agree with your definition of freedom. I have a nicer way of saying it, but it's more or less the same. Freedom is having control of your own life.
Yes.
That's the definition I apply. And I've had to consider this question because when I talk about free software, which is one of many issues of freedom in our lives, I run into people who say that freedom is having a lot of options available to you. And that's totally misguided. That leads to absurd conclusions. It's the wrong definition.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Should we move on to the next question?
Yes.
What did you-
So, do you find that there are any necessary limitations on freedom? For instance, like, you know, if you're feeling like maybe you're not safe being so free.
Or
Does that make
perhaps, or you could talk about maybe what would be an ideal world for you. Like, we live in this world, but what do you think would be an ideal place for us to live in, or what would you change?
Kind of like, where does my freedom end and yours begin?
Sure, something like that, yeah. Would you like to?
All right. Well, so we're saying, what do you need to have for freedom?
Yeah, or what, or even like, what would you want? What would be an ideal world for you? Or
Well, I think an ideal world would be where people really get have their being respected and having their opinion mattered in life, and just really liking how they live and really just loving to do things in life.
sounds like an ideal world.
Yep.
I think it would be a cooperative world. There's a lot of movements now starting around cooperativism and cooperating and being in groups doing things, and not just trying to set styles or trendsetters or have the most of everything, is trying to even out the playing field. So I think a cooperative world where people aren't afraid to share things would be the best for me.
It's a very broad topic. And what would the ideal world be? Would it be a world in which we were all basically immortal, perhaps uploaded into computers? I mean, I don't know.
What do you think?
I'm not sure. The thing is, we don't know what it would really be like. We can't tell if we would be happy in it. So I think I have to make the question a little bit smaller to have a chance of answering it. If we look at basically being humans like humans that exist today, I would say the ideal world is one where you don't have plutocrats dominating it, but where people generally are free, where people can all have basically enough to have a decent life and find challenges they can work on for helping each other.
Cool. Going along with that, what you were saying, maybe, like, do you think that we would be better off living in some WALL-E virtual reality world? Like, how do we know that would?
We don't know if it would, what it would be like, right? You can't tell what the consequences would actually be like. People speculate in science fiction, but you can't expect any of those speculations to be right. They only show us the variety of things that might be possible.
Boden, do you think it would be cool to live in a virtual reality world instead of this world?
Well, I think he's right. I think it would be cool, but I will never know unless it happens.
Maybe there's no ice cream in virtual reality worlds, or you can't taste it or something.
Yeah,
That'd be
well,
bad.
I think an ideal world would just be fixing the things that you think aren't right in this world and trying to make them better.
Very good point.
Okay, so we're gonna open it up for you guys to ask each other questions. Maybe do you have a question for them or something like that, or?
Yes, Micky, you said about your school that you would take a lot of tests.
No. No. I didn't say take a lot of tests. I said there will be a lot of assessment. And whereas assessment could just be meeting you in the hall for 5 minutes and going, hey, how you doing today? What's your new interest? That's an assessment.
I think that's a really good point, though. You know, that assessment is like automatically equated with tests.
A test, yes.
But really, what you're looking for is more of a sort of
Connecting.
interaction.
Yes.
Yeah. Very interesting.
So I probably have not many tests unless they made me have one. It's more of, hey, how you doing? What are you up to? And being sensitive to, oh God, he looks a little down today. Maybe ice cream? No.
Okay.
I'd like to remind people about John Holt, a great man that I once met, who wrote books about what was wrong with schooling. He wrote about how schools could just crush student spirit, teach them not to have independent initiative, teach them not to be curious about anything but to regard learning as just work, a chore that you have to do. Fortunately, that never happened to me. I just loved it too much, but I was lucky, It happens to lots of people. And then he wrote a book about the idea that children should be able to petition for adult freedoms and responsibilities in certain areas when they decide they're ready.
Like what, voting or?
No, but just being able to make certain decisions of their own lives for themselves.
Drinking. I'm just
Maybe.
kidding. I felt
But the
I was
point
ready
is,
around 12.
Going to school
Going to
or
live
not.
on their own,
Yeah.
things like that. And I found his arguments persuasive. Anyway, he couldn't fix what was wrong with the school system, so he started selling tools for homeschooling.
Those are good if the parent is equipped, but
Yes,
I've seen a lot
it takes a lot of work.
That's
In our society, most people are being run ragged or else they're broke. And I would urge people not to have children because in today's world, partly because there are just too many people, of course it's tremendously hard to have a child and raise a child in decent circumstances. This is because you're competing against
But how do
several
we
billion
decide
other
who gets
people.
to have children then?
Well, the first step is, I think, to decide that you're not going to have children. You should decide you're not going to have children. It's wise. I decided that for me, and I'm very glad that I did, because I not only avoided all the misery that tends to happen in families, but it meant that my life was sort of relaxed in a way that enabled me to try to do something else that could actually help a lot of people instead of struggling to raise one or two.
Yes.
The best I could have hoped for is that one or two people would have come out okay that way.
Right, exactly.
Even success doesn't amount to a big success. Whereas because I didn't have children, I could try to do something more important and have a chance perhaps of success. I have had some success, but I wouldn't have had it if I'd been desperately trying to get money. I wouldn't have been able to launch a movement to make software and computing better for people if money had been my number one priority. And that's what happens to you if you have children in a world where there are too many of them.
Were all your children now
Someday,
entered?
if
Maybe you can
population
have
gets
Boden.
smaller, it might be easy to have one or two children. You know, if the world isn't struggling with so many of them, everybody else would help you, but they can't all help you in circumstances like
But
this.
you wouldn't have been here if your parents didn't have
That's
children.
not a disaster, right? There are all sorts of hypothetical people that aren't here, and we just can't. It's a philosophical mistake to call that a loss for the world.
Boden, do you think you'll have kids one day? Do you want to have kids?
I don't know. He did put up a pretty good argument about not having kids.
To help a lot of people.
I mean, what are your finances like? Are you prepared?
But I want to go back to when he said homeschooling. Do you support homeschooling? Do you think it's better if kids are homeschooled?
I don't know enough to say. John Holt did believe it was better to be homeschooled. I haven't had children. I haven't been a teacher in a school, and I also haven't done homeschooling. So really all I know about it is what I read in Holt's books, and you can read those.
I think you'd have to be a pretty prepared parent to be able to teach your child all of that, or make connections to with other people. So you can't just teach them alone. I don't think.
We're down to our last 40 seconds, so maybe some closing remarks. Should we pick a winner? If you guys have to self-vote, I think Boden did a pretty good job. Richard probably a close second, but I think that
Putting Micky in last year.
But actually, maybe Micky first. I don't know.
I don't know about this competition.
Yeah, it's not really.
We're all
I think
winners.
everyone won, but thank you for joining us, and we'll be here again next week with completely different people. And thank you for watching, and thank you to our guests who all did a really wonderful job.
Sorry we didn't have time for calls.
Sorry, and drop out of school.